So as we mark this Africa Day, there are concerns that Afro-pessimistic views still dominate some narratives in the media and other digital platforms. In fact, the images, of course, we know that we see portraying Africa often inform our perceptions of the continent itself. But is there a way still of countering these negative sentiments? Let's unpack this for you now. Bring in lecturer at Queensland's Business School, Dr Mucha Mkono, who joins us now live from Australia, in Brisbane to be more precise. Doc, it's great to have you on the program. Thank you so much for making time. You know, notions of Afro-pessimism have been explored widely by scholars, for instance, but what the digital era has done in some part is move that discourse outside of the academy and, I guess, allowed ordinary people to get involved. Is that hurting? Or, I guess, you know, helping us move away from Afro-pessimistic views?
I think it's helping a lot. Of course, there are many downsides to social media, which are well documented, are well known. But I think in terms of empowering Africans to tell their own stories, to showcase representations that are more accurate and are more complete, I think from that perspective, social media is a powerful force. It gives people the voice that they might otherwise be lacking. They can create their own stories. They can share those stories as they see fit.
It's difficult to speak about, I guess, you know, the digital era without speaking about the digital divide. We know typically a lot of people in Africa still don't have access, at least the levels of access that their counterparts have in the global north. In what ways is that hampering their ability to, I guess, define how they're viewed, as you put it?
Of course, it's going to be challenging for those who are not connected, but we are seeing a trend where more and more people across all of Africa are getting access to the internet. The last I checked, at least 35%, probably close to 40% of people have some sort of access to the internet and to mobile technology. You know, people are on Facebook. There are at least 200 million Africans using Facebook, just for an example. So I think even though the coverage is not where we would want to see it get to, we are making very good progress towards you know, a scenario where virtually everybody in Africa, perhaps in another few years, will have access to the internet and in particular to mobile technology.
Yeah. Africa Day is largely also used to mark the founding of the African Union. Ironically, people use social media a lot to speak about how the African Union has failed to live up to its own objectives. You know, some of the, let's call it, disagreements that we've seen play out at that level haven't necessarily bid well for the image of people in Africa. So I guess, in line with our conversation, is the African Union and its reputation helping feed into Afro-pessimism, or, I guess, working in the opposite direction?
Well, you know, it's easy to point out all of the areas where more could be done. Of course, there could be a lot more that could be done, and there is more the African Union could do better. But regardless, Africa is making progress in quite a number of areas. And Africa is changing. Now, does that mean that, you know, it's a rosy picture through and through? Of course not. There are many challenges. Those stories must be told as well. But I think we must be, you know, we must celebrate the good as well. We must celebrate the good while acknowledging the challenges. Yes, the challenges are there. And the African Union, you know, is an important body in terms of political leadership. But I believe it's the duty of every African to be part of a movement that sees Africa growing, sees Africa transforming into a prosperous zone of opportunity, and it has every potential to achieve that. So I would not want to burden the African Union with all the responsibility. And I think we must reclaim our individual agency as well as Africans and play our part in seeing the future that we want realized.
Yeah, you speak about potential and agency. You know, there are people who say that a lot of Africa's potential lies in its young people, given that the continent has quite a considerable population of young people. But also, many of those young people feel their agency is hampered because of the disconnect they're feeling between their lives and those who are in charge of the countries in which they live. I wonder whether you're optimistic at all that we'll be able to find solutions to that complex problem.
I will agree and say I am inspired by young people. And, when I see young African people, whether it's via social media or through other means, it always makes me feel good. They also are very, good with using mobile technology, using social networking and so forth on Instagram and on other platforms. And by doing so, they are creating the stories that they want to see. And South Africa is certainly a leader in that, I would say. And, when I see South African YouTubers, South African, personalities on Instagram and so forth, and they tend to be young, I always see how they kind of bring a different perspective on Africa. And overall, it's quite a positive perspective. But yes, you're quite right. There is definitely a disconnect between the aspirations of young people and, unfortunately, perhaps the leadership that they see on the continent, which is of a different generation. So I think the onus is on the older generation and the older generation of leadership to find ways to connect with young people, but also to give young people the platforms they need to bring to fruition their goals and aspirations and their potential.
All right, Dr. Mucha Mkono, thanks very much indeed for your take. Appreciate your time on this Africa Day. Dr. Mkono is a lecturer at Queensland University, joining us there live from Australia.